Welcome to Eco Cosmetics Lab. Today we'll be heading to Lillooet to visit our friend Chris at One Love Farm. We'll be discussing his journey in regenerative agriculture, permaculture, and growing interesting varieties of heirloom vegetables and giving back to the land. We'll hear about plans they are building for an eco-retreat where people can come stay in a food forest overlooking the Fraser River. Later in the lab, we'll make a broccoli and carrot seed oil hair serum with an awesome biodegradable silicone replacement and essential oils. So I hope you'll come join us. Hey everyone, we're here with Chris at One Love Farm. We met him a few years ago at the Vancouver Farmers Market at Riley Park, and we were so amazed with all the heirloom squash he was growing and all different kinds of peppers, heirloom vegetables that I'd never even seen and heard of before. And so yeah, nice to see you. And I'd like to ask how you got into farming and what drew you to that.
I got into it, I guess, sort of by accident. I always knew when I was, I guess maybe 12, 13 years old. I grew up in a very urban setting in southern Ontario, and I knew one day I want to move to the mountains. And I didn't really know what that looked like, but I finished high school and hopped on a Greyhound and headed west for the mountains. And I met somebody who had a piece of land not too far from here, actually, kind of in the middle of nowhere, that didn't live on the land, and they were looking for someone to take care of their cabin and set up a garden for them. I had no idea what I was doing, but with a stack of organic gardening magazines and a friend of mine, we developed this little garden for on this piece of land and started growing our own food.
Nice. And so you had no prior...
Not growing vegetables, no, yeah, not really at all, But then, and I realized once we, started the adventure that, it's exactly what I wanted to be doing. Yeah, that was my first foray. I was only there for 1 year, and then I moved to the Kootenays and found myself in a very similar situation. You had a lot of people back then, I guess, that were, they had land and there's just but they can't live on the land for whatever, they work elsewhere, but you kind of need somebody to, if you have animals, like the place in the Kootenays, he had a couple horses and a couple goats and a small cabin on the land, no phone, no power, just this beautiful spot with this really rustic cabin, didn't even have a door on it, I don't think, when I moved in. I'd call the goat in the morning to milk. I'd call Goaty, and she'd come, and I'd milk her into my coffee and have a little goatachino. If you hold the cup far enough down your milking, you get a nice froth and a nice.
Nice, wonderful. And so then you were in the Kootenays, and then how did you hear about this?
Yeah, so I was in the Kootenays for a decade, caretaking land, living very close to the bears and all the other wildlife, growing my own food for the most part. And it just came a point, I think he was looking at selling the land. I'd been there for a decade, for 10 years, and pretty isolated, fairly hermit lifestyle. I go into town maybe once a month, but he was looking at selling the land. I wasn't really in a position to buy it, and it just made me feel like, it's time to move on and maybe work towards finding my own place.
Yeah.
And then so then I basically just sort of from then worked towards I guess I had a picture in my mind of what I wanted and what I was looking for as far as a lifestyle, I guess, the lifestyle. Yeah. I wanted a place where I could grow food. I wanted gravity-fed water, and I wanted a beautiful view and a great place to bring up kids. And then I ended up, when I left the Kootenays, I ended up in the Fraser Valley for a while, working at a job as like a bioengineering job. We travel all over the province in remote areas, and you know, and do bioengineering stuff like revegetating areas that had been, you know, kind of messed around with construction. But it's very construction.
So rehabilitating the land.
Yeah, exactly. But very construction based work, you know. So it wasn't really. I mean, I learned a lot of skills, I guess, with the job. But you know, after a decade of doing that, I was like, feeling drawn back to the land. You know, I felt I was kind of losing that part of me that is really, you know, really part of me, and you know, as also you know, getting close to having a family and having kids, and I didn't really want to bring my kids up in the city. So my wife and I, we bought. Just to get out of working, you know, it's kind of a big step. So we leased land, and she was still continued to work full time, and I went down to part time. We leased a piece of land, looked on Craigslist, found a piece of land to lease and start a market farm in the Fraser Valley, and we leased this piece of land for 3 years, and you know, built some momentum, and you know, built up a bit of a clientele and some more skills on growing on a bit of a larger scale. We had 3 acres there, and that's kind of, you know, that's where the turn to growing vegetables for a living, I guess, you know, as opposed to just sustenance style.
And so, in terms of the heirloom vegetables, like, how did you learn about them? So you just like look at catalogs and see what?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where, you know, as far as you know, there's responsibility. You know, as far as my growing style, for instance, like I you know, refuse to use chemicals for growing. I try and give back to the land, you know, as opposed to taking from the land, and you know, try and make it better than you know, more of a regenerative type of approach. Learning about growing and learning about responsible growing, and you learn about
not monoculture,
a responsibility for, like, you know, you look at what plant breeding has done, you know, over the years. We lose a lot of our genetics, a lot of our older varieties, and a lot of these older varieties have like superior flavor,
nutrients,
and more nutrients, exactly. So you know, we've been breeding plants, or you know, commercially, in order to be better for the market, or to last longer on the shelves, or to transport better, which aren't necessarily you know, they're great traits to have, but in only cultivating those traits, you lose all of these other traits like flavor and beauty and color, and you know, all of the and nutrition and variety. So if, you know, for me, I feel a responsibility to grow some of these older varieties of vegetables, and you know, and I mean, it's a world of, once you get into it, it's a world of you know, there's endless, like you said, you know, just like so many varieties of squash that you'd never heard of or seen, you know, bumpy ones, and you think it might not taste good.
Well, you said the more warts, the sweeter it is. Like I'm like, oh, you just use it like any other squash.
Yeah.
But it's really intimidating for people because they've never seen them, and they don't know that they can be cooked, and it's just scary. And
yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, that's true, and that's why, you know, I need to direct market my produce. You know, it's hard I can't wholesale, you know, so much that, you know, all these crazy different heirloom varieties, because the grocery stores won't want to carry that, right? They want the butternut, and they want the spaghetti squash and this and that, you know. But it's always been the bigger picture. It takes me you know, it takes me 3.5 hours to get to my market from here, and you know, it's been very important to develop, I guess, the one-on-one with my customers, and you know, develop that relationship between the farmer and who's going to consume the food. But in the long run, it's not really sustainable for me to be driving twice a week to, you know, and still try and manage the farm as well. So yeah, I'm very excited to have made connections with farmer friends of mine who share equal values similar values to what I have, and they can represent me at the market, sell their produce as alongside mine.
So how are you getting your stuff then to the market?
I'll still send it, but I'll have a driver that I can pay somebody to drive it there to the market.
Yeah, we're gonna miss you because it was so fun seeing you every week, and it was also interesting meeting the other clientele as well. Like just everyone talking about sustainability in vegetables, and just like all of us discovering things for the first time. Like I know. What was the cucumber? It was like a Persian, or what were the cucumbers you grew?
Which one was the white one? The white.
Yeah, it was, and I looked it up.
The
Armenian
cucumber,
and it was grown in like Egyptian times, and
and super
so
old variety. And I've always, and you look at the seed catalogs and everything, and grow it to a certain size, and they're nice big sweet cucumber, which they are. But I had a woman who was like, oh, we had, she came to the market and she said, oh, I haven't seen those since I was a kid, back in the old country. And we grow those, like, we just pick them when they're this big, when they're small, and we pickle them. And she's like, can you pickle them? Can you pick me some small ones? And so I picked it, I didn't have a lot of plants because I don't sell a lot of those cucumbers because they're odd looking. So I just kind of, all week I just picked ones for her and brought them to her so she could make a small batch of pickles, but yeah, those are the kind of connections that you make at the market, and it's different than anywhere than shopping at a grocery store or and even myself, I'm going to miss those interactions not going to the markets. I mean, I'll show up at the market.
But just not every week.
But just not every week. It kills me doing that drive twice a
that's
week
too
in the
brutal.
Summers. And I can just spend more time also. Here. And I'm very excited to now, it's always been the plan is to be able to welcome people to the farm. We're setting up some infrastructure here where we can have, we've made these connections down in the city where we can actually have people come to the farm and experience and learn about what we're doing here. That's a very important piece to me as well.
Yes, and you were saying you just we're doing a orchard, so we can head over there and see what's going on.
Planting a permaculture orchard, a food forest per se.
All right, so let's head over there.
This is the beginning of the orchard here, but we are we'll be planting like perennial herbs and things in here as well, edible berries and things, and just create a bit of a food forest in here. This will also be like not only just an orchard for production, but we'll have a nice trail, a nice walk through here. We kind of meander through. We have a couple of terraces, and you walk through the trail, and then we have the forest beyond there. The Fraser River is. We have a nice overlooking panorama of the river. So we want to set up. We will be setting up like tent platforms and putting up canvas prospector tents and setting up a bit of a glamping setup. We'll start off with 3 shelters with a little integral kitchen where people can come to the farm and do you-pick greens and things and prepare their own food as well. So it'll be just sort of like a very experiential
so people can come here and experience the land
experience
and nature.
Experience the food, the abundance of what this land gives us, and try varieties of things that they wouldn't normally try, or see in the grocery store.
Yeah, that's so wonderful, because I know it was thanks to you that. Because even at farmers markets, I mean, that's where you can find other varieties, but it was like, especially you with all the different exotic peppers and the squash, it really opened my eyes up to, and so I feel like that would be great to have more and more people
definitely. And for me, I mean, this is my element. At the market, I'm a little bit of a fish out of water, so it sure is nice to welcome people here to the field and actually show them, exactly where that food is coming from. So it's, kind of the next level, which is really nice for me. It feels really good to be making those connections with people, while on the land as well.
More carrots. Don't tear it. More carrots. Where's Garrett?
So the ingredients you'll need for the hair serum today are Citropol V5, which is a natural alternative to low viscosity volatile silicones. Broccoli seed oil. It's a light textured oil, easily absorbed, contains many moisturizing fatty acids. Carrot seed CO2, it repairs split ends. And white grapefruit essential oil, or you could use another one of your choice. And vitamin E T50 mixed tocopherols, they protect the oils from rancidity. So the main ingredient we'll be using today is Citropol V5, which is a volatile silicone replacement that doesn't cause buildup on the hair. It's vegan, all natural and biodegradable, and since it's volatile, that means it evaporates. So it gives a nice light feeling and doesn't weigh down the hair at all. So first up, we're going to measure 45.7 grams of the Citropol V5. And this will make up the bulk of our formula. And we'll add all the other oils into it and they'll dissolve nicely. We are only going to be making a 50 milliliter batch today, so we cut everything in half, since the formula always has to equal 100 to make it easier to scale up. Next up, we're going to pour this into the main vessel, and since it's all just oil-based materials, we'll be mixing it in our main vessel just by shaking it, so we don't need an elaborate mixing process. So next up, we got broccoli seed oil, and I included this because it's very nourishing for the hair. I find if you use too much plant oils, though, they can weigh the hair down, so I only used a little bit. So next we got carrot seed oil. I've included that because its ability to restore hair health and luster. It's a grounding oil that helps repair split ends. So for 50 mils, we'll only need 0.6 grams. The scent is very grounding, and it's a really nice oil for the hair and the body. So up next, we've got the grapefruit essential oil, and you can use whichever oil you like. But yeah, I'm going to use 1 gram of this, and I really love the smell of grapefruit. It's so fresh, and the mood balancing and stress relief properties it has doesn't hurt either. So the last step is to add our mixed tocopherols, vitamin E T50. The mixed tocopherols give the best antioxidant benefit, and we're using a medium amount today at 0.6%. High level of use would be 1 to 2%, because too much antioxidant can have the opposite effect and actually increase the rate of oxidation. So we only want to use like a tiny amount. And that's it, we're done. So just give it a good stir and yeah, mix everything together, and then we'll be adding it to our main batch. We just want to make sure it's mixed beforehand. But you see how it's all dissolving together really nicely, so because it's all oil-soluble materials. What the antioxidants do is they prolong the shelf life of the oils before they go rancid, so it gives it a longer shelf life by staying fresh. And what I love about these bowls is that they fold up, so they almost turn into a spout, so it's easier to pour. With them is that they're malleable, and yeah, I love these little bowls. We don't have to worry about any microorganisms growing in here because there's no water, so. Now we just put the lid on and give it another shake, and that's it. Shake it around and make sure it's nicely incorporated. Now comes the labeling, so you can really have fun here and make cool designs. I highly recommend labeling your products because if you don't, you'll forget what it was. So yeah, make sure you label everything and put the dates on, and I like to just add all the ingredients list that I use in the order from the most to the least. And yeah, definitely add the date so that you know when you did it. So give it a few pumps here, and you'll see that it's just like a really nice light oil. It seems oily at first, but since most of it's volatile, it just it goes on the hair really nicely. And what I like to do to protect the label is actually put some tape over top of it so that it doesn't get either any water on it that will dissolve or oil that looks gross. So yeah, just put this on before it gets anything on there, and it's protected. And doesn't that look great? And you've made your own serum for like a fraction of the cost, and it's just like amazing. You could add whatever essential oils you want, any other oils you wanted, and yeah. So I hope everyone enjoyed making this hair serum with me today, and if you'd like a copy of the formula and any more info on suppliers and where to get materials, just go to ecocosmeticslab.com.
More carrots. Don't tear it. More carrots. Where's Garrett?
Vegetables. Vegetables.
Here I come from the west side. The left side.
road there, there's a line that cuts across, and our spring just comes out. There's me. We have got 2 licenses on the spring, and then our neighbor has a license, and that's it. It just gurgles out of the side of the mountain, and we've got a little intake, and it just flows all the time. It's amazing.
That's incredible.
And the water is amazing. It's been a relatively cold spring, so we're waiting a little bit for it to warm up and get all our peppers and tomatoes in the ground. They're all waiting patiently in the greenhouse for us.
So incredible, the view you have here of the...
Yeah, that face is pretty amazing, and it changes through the day. Sometimes it looks really close, and sometimes it looks further, depending where the sun is hitting it. That big scar up there, though, the fresh rock, that was a really big slide that came down last November while we were having, I guess you were mostly having the atmospheric river down there on the coast. But we actually experienced quite a bit of rain too, and this big slide went on for like maybe 5 minutes, just rocks rumbling down.